You have the exact same 24 hours as every person who has ever changed the world. The same 24 hours as the person who built the company you admire, wrote the book that changed your life, transformed their body while working a full-time job. Same number of hours, same number of minutes. And yet, somehow, by the end of most days, you can't fully explain where they went. Here's the uncomfortable truth almost nobody wants to hear. You didn't lose that time. You spent it, deliberately, one small decision at a time, on things that felt urgent in the moment and meant nothing an hour later. One more episode, one more scroll, one more "I'll start tomorrow." By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why your time keeps disappearing and exactly what to do about it starting today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, today. Remember this phrase, you cannot get time back. Everything else in this video builds toward that single sentence. Here's where the problem actually starts, and it's not where you'd expect. Most people believe the enemy of productivity is laziness. It isn't. The real enemy is something far sneakier. Habits that feel harmless in the moment, repeated so consistently that they quietly consume your entire life without you ever noticing the theft happening. You tell yourself, just one more episode. Then it's 3 hours later and the important task you were supposed to do is still sitting there, untouched, exactly where you left it that morning. This isn't a character flaw, it's a pattern, and patterns, unlike character, can be rebuilt. Here's the first thing almost nobody understands about their own time. Your energy is not constant throughout the day. It rises and falls in a predictable cycle, and most people fight against that cycle instead of working with it. Your energy is typically highest earlier in the day, before the accumulated friction of decisions, interruptions, and stress wears it down. Which means the single highest leverage habit you can build is protecting your peak energy hours for the task that actually matters most. Not email, not notifications, not the easy things that feel productive but change nothing. There's a cycle to this, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. First, you build energy through sleep, through nutrition, through movement, the unglamorous foundation nobody wants to talk about because it isn't exciting. Second, you direct that energy toward your single most important task, not 5 tasks at once. Third, you fully immerse yourself in it, eliminating every possible distraction. Fourth, you rest deliberately before you burn out completely, so you can restart the cycle instead of collapsing at the end of it. Most people skip straight to the third step without ever building the energy the first step requires. They try to force focus on an empty tank, wonder why they feel like they're dragging themselves through the day, and blame themselves for a problem that was never about willpower to begin with. So if energy isn't the real problem, why does procrastination still win day after day, even when you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing?
Here's where it gets uncomfortable, because the real reasons are rarely the ones people admit to themselves. The first reason is unclear stakes. You haven't actually convinced yourself the task matters, not in a surface-level way. Deep down, viscerally, you haven't connected the dots between doing this task today and the life you say you want 5 years from now. Until that connection is real, no amount of willpower will outlast the pull of something easier. The second reason is a fundamental misunderstanding of motivation itself. Almost everyone waits to feel motivated before they start. That order is backwards, and it's the single biggest reason people stay stuck. Motivation isn't the cause of action, it's the result of it. You don't feel motivated and then start. You start, imperfectly, uncomfortably, and the motivation shows up 2 minutes later, once momentum exists for it to attach itself to. The third reason is fear disguised as perfectionism. Somewhere underneath the procrastination is a quiet fear that if you actually try and it isn't good enough, that will mean something about you. So you don't try fully. You delay, you prepare, You research one more time, anything except the vulnerable act of actually attempting the thing and finding out. The fourth reason is simple overwhelm. Too many tasks, no clear order, so your brain does what an overwhelmed brain always does. It freezes and calls the freezing not being in the mood today. Here's where most people watching this would nod along, feel understood, and change absolutely nothing tomorrow morning. Don't be most people. Understanding why you procrastinate was never the finish line, it was the starting line. There's a deeper trap most people fall into that has nothing to do with today at all. It's about which version of time is actually running their decisions. You only ever live in the present, but most people aren't actually operating from the present. They're operating from a story about the past, a moment they failed, a version of themselves that didn't measure up, replaying on a loop, quietly convincing them that today will go the same way it always has. Or they're operating from anxiety about a future that hasn't happened yet, borrowing stress from a moment that doesn't exist. Both of these steal your only real resource, today. The past can teach you something if you let it. It cannot predict you unless you allow it to. The future deserves a plan, not a spiral. But the only place action actually happens, the only place your life is actually being built, minute by minute, is the day directly in front of you right now. Think of today as a microcosm of your entire life. If today is wasted on trivial, meaningless activity, it doesn't just disappear harmlessly. It becomes a vote for the kind of life you're building, the same way tomorrow will, and the day after that. Enough wasted days strung together, and you look up 1 year later, wondering where an entire chapter of your life went, without a single memory worth keeping from it. So here's the flip that changes everything. Stop asking what you feel like doing today, and start asking what today needs to become in order for the version of you 5 years from now to be proud of it. There's one specific trap in language that keeps people stuck more than almost anything else, and it's so small most people never notice they're doing it.
I don't have time. Say that sentence enough times and you start believing it's simply a fact about your schedule. It rarely is. It's usually a disguised way of saying the task isn't important enough to you yet, because if it truly mattered enough, you would find the time. The same way you always find time for the things you actually care about, no matter how busy you claim to be. The fix isn't complicated, but it requires brutal honesty with yourself. Replace "I don't have time" with something closer to the truth. This isn't a priority for me right now. And then sit with how that sentence feels. If it feels wrong, if some part of you resists hearing it, that resistance is information. It's telling you the task actually does matter, and you've just been hiding behind a scheduling excuse instead of admitting you've been avoiding it. Now, here's how you actually multiply the time you do have instead of just managing it more carefully. First, stop trying to do everything yourself. The instinct to prove your independence by refusing help is one of the most expensive habits a person can have, quietly costing hours every single week that could have gone toward the thing only you can actually do. Second, shorten your learning curve deliberately. Watching someone who has already solved the problem you're facing, learning from their mistakes instead of repeating every one of them yourself, can compress months of trial and error into days. Third, adopt what serious performers in every field understand instinctively. Master repetition until an action becomes automatic. Master the fundamentals so you always have something to return to when things go wrong. And stay permanently in learning mode, because the moment you decide you've learned enough is the moment your growth quietly stops. Fourth, ruthlessly prioritize. Not everything on your list deserves equal attention. A small number of your daily actions are responsible for the overwhelming majority of your actual results. Roughly 20% of what you do drives roughly 80% of what matters. Find that 20%, protect it fiercely, let the rest shrink. And here's the piece almost nobody talks about when they talk about productivity. Focus itself is not something you either have or don't have. It's a skill, and like every other skill, it can be trained, protected, and systematically destroyed by bad habits. The fastest way to destroy your focus is task switching, jumping from one thing to another, checking a notification just for a second, convincing yourself multitasking makes you efficient when it's actually fragmenting your attention into pieces too small to accomplish anything meaningful with any of them.
The way you build real focus, the kind that produces results other people can't match, is by protecting uninterrupted blocks of time. 45 minutes minimum with every notification silenced, every possible interruption removed in advance, not negotiated with in the moment. You don't fight distraction while you're distracted. You remove the possibility of distraction before you begin. There's a deeper state beyond ordinary focus that changes everything once you experience it. A state where you lose track of time entirely because you're so completely immersed in what you're doing that self-consciousness disappears along with the hours. You don't stumble into that state by accident. You build the conditions for it deliberately. The same routine, the same time, the same place, every single day, until your mind learns to associate that environment with deep work the instant you enter it. No motivation required. No waiting to feel ready. The trigger does the work that motivation used to fail to do. So here's what all of this actually adds up to and how you use it starting tomorrow morning, not next Monday. First, identify your highest energy hour of the day and protect it fiercely for your single most important task. Not email, not the easy wins, the one thing that actually matters. Second, the next time you feel resistance to starting something, don't wait for motivation to arrive first. Start anyway, imperfectly, for 2 minutes. Motivation will show up after you've already begun, not before. Third, the next time the words, "I don't have time," come out of your mouth, stop and ask yourself honestly whether that's true or whether it's a more comfortable way of saying, "This isn't a priority yet." Fourth, find your 20%, the small number of actions producing the majority of your results. Protect that time like it's the most valuable resource you have, because it is. You cannot get time back. Every hour spent is gone permanently, whether you spent it building the life you actually want or numbing yourself against the discomfort of starting. The 24 hours were never the problem. They were always enough. The only real question, the one that determines everything else about your life, is what you decide to do with the ones you have left today. If this hit you the way it hit me, tell me the one task you're protecting your best hour for tomorrow in the comments below. I read every single one. Stay with us.